SNEEPles! Bright Lights is coming out this weekend and I'm stoked. I'm beyond excited for it. We are going to get some sealed pre-release coming, as well as the shuffle and play format coming out, which is kind of basically a miniature sealed. In this video, we're going to hopefully make it where you can have not only a fun time, but even a successful time at these events. And our first way to do that is identifying from all the cards we opened from the packs we were giving, what heroes we want to be playing in order to maximize our efficiency with our cards. So let's get into that part, because the very first step you want to do in a shuffle and play or a sealed format is you want to open up everything and then sort the cards accordingly. You want to sort the cards based on, if they work good with Techno Boston, with Dash, with Max Nitro. These are heroes that you want to sort cards into in order to determine which hero is the best one to go with. Now that's a lot easier said than done, but we're going to make that a little easier with identifying which cards go with what hero. And let's begin with Techno Boston. Techno Boston is our snazzy dressed mechanologist hero that works with Evo's equipment, which means that he basically wants to maximize the efficiency of each Evo's equipment. And the way he does that is by being able to play it from the advantage zone, being able to use his ability to play at instant speed, and just being able to basically recycle Evo's equipment. We're gonna get into exactly how he does that. But when you're looking at cards, what you wanna look for first off is your Evo's equipment. Do you have enough to really make use of his ability to really keep the Evos out as long as possible, or as many Evos out as possible? Do you have one Evo's equipment for each of the equipment slots? That is the heads, the chest, the legs, and the arms. If you do, then there might be a chance you'll play Techno Boston. But the other cards you want to look for is Evo Upgrade, because these cards work best when you have as much Evos out there as possible. So if you have 4 Evos out there, a lot of cards get increasingly better. That's really what you're going to want to look for. Do you have some banger Evo upgrade cards, and do you have the Evos to match? And that is the Evo's armor that I'm talking about here. The other thing you want to look for that works very well, especially with Techno Boston, is the scrap mechanic. The scrap mechanic allows you to put a card from your graveyard into the banish zone. It has to be equipment or item. And we don't really care too much about the items. We want the equipments, because if we can put the equipments from our graveyard to the banish zone with Techno Boston's ability, we can recycle it and play it as our equipment all over again. That's what you want to kind of look for at Techno Boston. Look for your Evo's armor, look for your scrap mechanic, and look for your Evo upgrade. Now, let's get into our next hero. All right, our next hero is Dash. We have the new Dash, the Dash that has 18 health. This is the only hero within this set that has less than 20 health. 18 health, and the reason is because you can play items on your turn at instant speed as well as your opponent turn at instant speed. And that's really what you want to do with Dash. You wanted to look to make the most out of your ability, and therefore have very good items that are great to play that can help change the course of the game. So when you are looking at making a Dash pile of cards, what you're really putting there is your items. And you're particularly looking to see if you have some of those majestic items that really can help really turn the tide, as well as some of the rare ones as well. So items are very, very big for Dash. Being able to continually play them out instant speed, especially the ones that you can just, once you use their ability, they go on the bottom of the deck. That helps keep the Dash train rolling. You're gonna wanna look to, use items, but the other ability that Dash is very good with is Dash really looks to use the ability Galvanize. Galvanize really helps to have your cards block a little bit better, and this is really what you want, because first off, you should have about 1 to 2 items out every turn with Dash. That's the ideal circumstance here. And so Galvanize as an ability should be able to be pretty easy to get going. But the other thing is that because items don't block, you could have a hand where you just don't have very much block in it. Galvanize allows that to, a little bit of a remedy towards that, because then you can block for 4 with a card, and that's pretty good. A 1 card 4 block is pretty above rate, on par, really what you want to do so that you can take less damage and be able to apply more on your turn. Galvanize, huge cards to look for, as well as very, very good items. Definitely keep your eyes on the items first. These items you want to probably play on your opponent's turn, or at least instantly on your turn, and so that you don't have to use the crank mechanic in order to keep getting an action point. And that's really where Dash shines. She doesn't have to crank. She can crank if you particularly wanted to, but she doesn't have to. So her items tend to stay around a little bit longer than maybe a Max Nitro or a Techno Boston deck. That's what you want to look for with Dash. Let's move on to our last hero. Our last hero is one of the easier heroes to build. It is the aggro hero of the set. This is Max Nitro. And the reason it's one of the easier heroes to build is because if you think you have maybe a Techno Boston deck, or you maybe have a Dash deck, you probably always have a Max Nitro deck. And the reason is because his ability just requires you to boost in order to capitalize on it. So there's a ton of cards out there that has boost. So that's all you really need. But there is also some cards out there that work better for Max Nitro than it would work for the other heroes. And these are cards that work with Hyperdriver. Max Nitro is able, as long as you boost her to turn, is able to make a Hyperdriver token, as well as you can just play the Hyperdriver card. And this is pretty important because there is plenty of cards out there that work with the number of Hyperdrivers you have. Whether it's destroying them or counting them towards the resource cost of the card. These are cards that really look to capitalize on making Hyperdrivers as much as possible. Now, because you are boosting, you are getting multiple action points a turn, and you are looking to attack multiple times a turn. And that is why he is the aggro deck, Max Nitro. As well as his weapon looks to crank. And cranking can be pretty damn good, especially when you're looking to crank your Hyperdrivers that you're putting out. So overall, Max Nitro is trying to get in as much as possible while making as many Hyperdrivers as possible as well. So therefore, if you see any card that says Hyperdriver on it, go ahead and put that off to the side for Max Nitro, and then you can kind of see then how many of those cards you have, and then decide, well, I don't really have a Techno Boston deck, I don't really have a Dash deck, let's make this Max Nitro deck. Alright, let's get into the closing thoughts on this set. Overall, you're going to have your different piles of cards for each hero. And then what you're going to look for is, is your Techno Boston pile a little higher? Is your Dash pile higher? Or is your Max Nitro pile higher? Generally, you want to go with the pile that has more cards in it, because that will be more synergistic of a deck and will function better. But you do want to look for your bombs and try to identify them and like, okay, this card is so good, there's no way I'm not playing Max Nitro. The other thing to really consider is that, particularly like with Techno Boston, he uses Evo's upgrade. Well, every hero can use Evo's upgrade. He just uses it a little bit better than everyone else. That doesn't mean you shouldn't play an Evo's upgrade card as Dash or as Max Nitro. In fact, you probably should. So don't think that just because, a certain card works with Hyperdriver, you shouldn't play it as Dash. No, totally be open to playing all cards as a certain hero. Don't just think, okay, that is just a Techno Boston card, that is just a Dash card. Unless it says specialization, you can play it in your deck, and you should consider it as well. This is really just merely trying to decide what hero to play. I am going to be coming out with a series of draft videos, doing one for each hero and then a draft recap at the end. So once we get into draft, we will give you all of that limited knowledge to get to work with. But until then, just go out, enjoy these pre-releases, enjoy the new shuffle and play game mechanics. Let's go and have some fun boosting, cranking, scrapping, anything we do. Have a good one, guys. Keep on fabbing.